We are live. Whoop, whoop.
Hi.
Hi, love your hair.
Yeah, about that.
What about that?
It's the way it is.
I know. It is silver and curly.
It
And
is what it is.
you know what? I washed mine. It was so
Nice.
beautifully. I'm getting all these notifications from various places saying, Hadass is live. There you go. Yay.
Yay.
So, thank you to anybody who might be watching us. Feel free to leave a comment. Well, the thing about hair is that my hair was so nice and smooth, and then I washed it, and this is what it's like
That's what it
in
happens.
reality. But
Yep.
it's still nice and purple. Other side.
It's still lovely. I love the
Good.
color.
Thank you, thank
Since you've
you.
done that, I'm kind of thinking about it.
Well, you can do it. It was a spur of the moment decision. My hairdresser was like, I should put some dark in there just to give it some depth. And I was like, well, if you're going to do that, how about purple? So there we are. Purple hair.
It works.
It matches my kid's hair. I'm not sure how pleased she is.
Yes.
So, let me just close the book. So, what are we talking about today, Lynn?
Ageism.
Ageism, yeah. And by the way, I just want to say I can see we have a few viewers. Welcome. Feel free to drop a comment and tell us what you think about ageism. Is that something that you deal with? And how is that? How is that for you? So, go ahead, Lynn. What do you have in your mind?
Well, it's interesting, this whole concept, because there's been um, I'll, what am I trying to say? It's like a stream of emotion that's gone through me for many, many years towards my father.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall I was still living at home. I was 18. And Dad was the district manager for Cadbury Schweppes Powell in Atlantic, Canada. He used to leave Friday night or Sunday night and come home Friday night. And he was really well known. And then he came home one day, said, I'm training a younger man. He said, as supposed to be an assistant to me. And he said, but I kind of get the feeling he's going to be replacing me. Now, Dad would have been 63, same age I am. And he would come home at night disgruntled, feeling this gut feeling. And we would talk about it at supper. And then as soon as the man was trained, Dad was given a package to leave.
Mm.
And that was the beginning of the descent of my father's life.
I'm sorry.
And that's what this is all about. It's about ageism. It's as you mature, where do you fit into society? And a point that's made is ageism is with adolescence, and then you have between 25 and 40, 45, and then you get to 50 and up, then you're faced with ageism again. And even though it's, polar opposite age groups, but they're still faced with the same dilemmas, only the fact that with age, it's about our age, but it's also about prejudice. And it's pretty astounding, because it was coined back in 1969 about the discrimination against seniors.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised back that far. And of course, I would have been 10, didn't mean anything to me. But it's mainly towards the aging process. So anybody that's in the boomer age group, they're not really fitting into society. And I'm on the very tail end of it for being 59, 1959 when I was born. But it's the prejudice that's against the elderly, and it can be done so subtly. 58% of the people that were interviewed found that the key component that they felt they were being targeted with ageism were the comments, the jokes that were made about them, possibly at the workplace, possibly shopping, whatever.
What you call
But
microaggressions.
and it's interesting that that amount of people identified with that. For it's commonplace today in our society for our seniors to be faced with this sort of a dilemma. There's the the point you say, oh, where did I put that? Well, that's considered a senior's moment.
Yeah,
But I remember being 35 saying that.
Yeah, but then did you have little kids? Because
I remember being younger feeling that way, but it's been coined now as a senior's moment, or dirty old man, or what's the other one is going through the change of life is another one, that, or second childhood. So these are things that are actually making more mature people feel like they're elderly, are these types of attitudes towards individuals. However, this point is amazing. There's one culture in the world that has a very, very low rate of ageism, and that's in China, because their elderly are revered as being very precious, and they aren't exposed to ageism the way the rest of the world actually is.
I think it's a question of what people value, isn't it? And if you're in a
Absolutely.
Western culture, is very utilitarian. If you're not perceived as someone who can, work and be, exploited in some way, then you're not considered of very high value.
That's the point. Or the other point is not as much value, but how much more value do you have to contribute to my company? So now I've got to replace you because there's no more longevity. That's gone in the minds of corporations. So the different types of ageism is institutional ageism. That's when we lose our we lose our freedom within institutions regards to policies and actions in these institutions. Then there's interpersonal, and then there's internalized ageism, that's actually quite difficult to understand. I've never felt that way, but getting of a certain age and now you're saying I'm too old. Nobody wants me. I don't fit in anymore. Where's my value? That's very sad.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes it has to do with, again, with what people value, right? There's a lot of people who are, if they were really, really identified with their career when they retire, then they have to find some other, locus of value for their life. So they might volunteer, or they might, become the best grandparent ever, or they might, work on their house or their garden or whatever, but they have to find something to replace that feeling of I am valued because of what I contribute in my career. So that can be a big issue. And what also happens sometimes is that if you have people who are, have been a couple for a long time and one member of the couple passes away, the other, the remaining member of the couple might feel like, well, I don't fit in with my friends anymore because now I'm single. And that can happen at any age. But I'm thinking if you have a circle of friends who have all been, married for 50 years and all of a sudden you're a widow, that could also be a problem. So I think these things can be really complex.
Yes. It's like common points of ageism that where we're seeing it in society is in the marketing dollar. where it's targeting people that are younger than 50 years of age.
Oh, that's really interesting.
That's very disturbing.
The
Yes.
boomers are such a large
Yes.
population in North
Yes.
America.
But that's not actually where corporations, no doubt it is changing, but it's changing very slowly. The majority of their marketing dollar goes to the younger individual. Another common example of ageism is where people say, old people go there. I won't go there because that's where old people go. And in town here, there's a building called Club 55. Pardon me? Pardon me?
I think the boomers are becoming quite wealthy because their parents are passing away.
Well, yes, yes. You know, there's we see examples of ageism in our healthcare. It's a crisis for boomers. And then for people like myself, where I've been an entrepreneur all my life, I don't have the benefits. I don't have any of that. I've got to buy into something special to be able to take care of myself. But these are serious issues. But it's that stigma of being called the older person. And like I was saying, that building in town here called Club 55, that's where 55 years of age and older go. So a lot of young people say, no, I don't want to go there because old people go there. Well, they put the name on the building.
They probably can't afford, the younger people probably can't afford to live there anyway.
They can't go there. Yeah, really. Yeah, certainly. What I find to be extremely interesting is the main cause of ageism is the fact that as you're beginning to age, you're forcing younger individuals to face their mortality. And they don't want to. And if they're working alongside someone that's much more mature, they're having to fear disability or dependence or death. It becomes so much more prevalent in their day-to-day life when they're associating around people that are more mature. So they avoid them, they segregate them, they reject older people.
I agree with that.
Pardon me?
Said I'm not 100% sure I agree with.
Okay. Well, that's what the statistics are sharing with us. And there's actually a term for it it's called gerontophilia, gerontophilia. And it's an actual phobia that some people actually have because it underpins the obvious. They're going to age and they're going to be faced with these things. So I just found these points very interesting. But the positive side is, Hadass, is when we hear this, we need to speak up. We need to speak up for ourselves. Other people need to speak up for us also. Don't allow people to say these things. We need to be active. We need to engage in the world. We need to be active mentally, physically, so as to overcome ageism. Being positive, you mentioned that earlier. Being independent and surrounding yourself with younger people. And like that whole sweep of people now that are 50 plus, finding them at the gym. And, you know, they're competing, they're bodybuilding, they are a force to be reckoned with in the world we live in today. And I think it is a changing. Some of the younger people are seeing the capability of the maturing individual and what they can actually contribute to the world and to their individual lives also. So it's an extremely interesting topic, but it is what it is. It's the way the world has developed, and since 1969, that's when it became a real topic of interest.
So that's when the term was coined? Because, I mean, the issue has been around for much longer than
Yeah,
that.
that's when it was coined. The term was coined.
Hmm.
And in the workforce, like when it comes to discrimination of the aging, like older workers, they're being fired or offered buyouts. And that's when I think of my father, and I feel that pinch, how he must have felt. Younger ones are being hired to replace them. They're being reassigned for an unpleasant duty. That makes me absolutely want to bawl, because they should be given the more the much more prestigious duties within a company because of their value. The tacky comments within work, they stop getting raises, and their performance reviews, they tank, because they're trying to oust them because they no longer see them as being valued within their corporation. It is
Well, the
what it
question
is.
are people like, I'm sorry that your dad had such a hard time. I gather he wasn't really able to find a different focus for his life once he was no longer working there. Like that was it. He didn't think he had value for any other reason aside from working for this corporation.
We watched Dad go downhill. It was
I'm sorry.
probably about 2 years later, he had a double bypass. He had a
Mm.
massive heart attack. It seriously affected him that he was being considered an old, unvalued man. And the kids can rally around saying, "No, Dad, we love you. You're amazing." But that's not his peers.
So he didn't have anything else.
He retired and he built my mother a home, and they lived in that until he finally died. Yeah, it was, we all watched him. It literally destroyed his confidence in regards to work. He did get involved in the community, like within the council and things like that. And he met with gentlemen every morning to have coffee and such. But you could tell that was an issue for him in his life, because he was a businessman and forced out.
And it didn't occur to him to start his own business?
Not at that age. Not at that age.
Have you heard of a guy called Jimmy Smith?
No, I'm not sure. You're saying Jimmy Smith?
Jimmy Smith.
Okay.
He's in our company.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You know how old he was when he first discovered the kind of business that we do? So he had never done it before. You know how old he was when he started?
I remember reading it. I don't remember what it is.
He was 64.
Yeah.
He'd been a butcher for 40 years, and then he hurt his back.
Yeah.
And he couldn't work as a butcher anymore.
Yeah.
And then he discovered this business, and he started off, he had a lot of failures, it was a learning curve for him, just like anybody else. It's not that he had some sort of God-given talent for it, but he persevered, and he is now in his 90s. You wouldn't think he was a day over 80, but he's in his 90s, and he's still sharp as a tack, very healthy. And the point is that he is a multimillionaire, and he became like the patriarch of the company that we work with. And he didn't even start this business until he was 64. So I'm really, really sorry for your dad that he thought that that was the end of the line for him and he couldn't see anything else. But it's not that, it doesn't have to be that way. And we're here to tell people that it doesn't have to be that way. And you can totally start a business in your 60s. I'm sorry your dad didn't see that, but we can and we are.
I think, too, we live in a different time now. Dad died in 93. And I don't, like, from the world he came from, that wasn't encouraged to do. Once you're finished work, you're finished.
Oh, I don't doubt it. that he lived in
Yeah.
in a society where he was basically
Yeah.
thrown away with the garbage. And that is terrible.
It
And
is.
I'm
It
really
is.
sorry. And
Yeah.
it's something that's really, really wrong with the way the world is put together, that still happens to a lot of
That
people.
it,
And
yes.
it really
Yeah.
brings me to how we can offer hope and purpose and the ability for people to change their lives and not, you know, I mean, having coffee with a gentleman is lovely, but I can see that he didn't find that very fulfilling.
No,
But
that's the truth.
the thing is that it doesn't have to be like that. And people need to know that. We need to get the word out there
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't. And even if a person doesn't want to get into business again, there is enough organizations around the world that are looking for individuals with experience in life that they can contribute value and wisdom for success. I'm a part of an organization, I'm a Canadian ambassador called Dress a Girl Around the World. And that's where we send special dresses, specialized dresses that are handmade to Uganda during civil strife, where the little girls have no clothing to wear at all. So to ward off predators, we have a special logo, and we work with Amnesty International that in the event that they're harmed, we bring the international. We work with children that are trafficked or stolen. So, I mean, there are many organizations out there that anybody that is living alone or finding that they need something in their life, lots of stuff to be involved in. Just find out what attracts you, what your niche is.
Absolutely. My dad got involved with Amnesty International when after he retired. I mean,
Is
he
it?
was involved with them before, but he had more time for it after. My mom used to joke
Yes.
that he had a mistress named Amnesty because he spent so much time on it. But
Yes.
it's people can find purpose,
Yeah.
but I think first of all they need to realize that that's what they need to do. I think a lot of people just kind of fall into things and that's what they do and that's who they are. And I don't know if your dad chose to become the district manager for Pepsi for Atlantic Canada or if that was just something that happened. But the point is, a lot of people just roll from one thing into the next and they don't stop to think about what they want and what gives purpose and joy and meaning to their lives. And that's true at any age, but especially when you
Absolutely.
get to the point like that we are at, that we probably have less life in front of us than we do behind
Yep.
us. I
Yep.
mean, the Jewish blessing is may you live to 120, which would mean that I'm halfway. But most people don't get to that. That's how long Moses lived. That's why they say that. But I
Right.
mean, it's not common for people to live to 120 in good health, and most
Mhm.
people don't even make it to 100 in good health. So we don't have time to waste. And I think that people need to realize that they don't have time to waste on feeling sorry for themselves or on, you know, doing things that are unfulfilling.
Yes. And even internalizing, going into your own community, what what organizations are right within your own community that actually need you. Uh, and no fault to somebody that's younger, they're 20, 25, 30, but when you've lived double that, you've earned a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I would never want to be back in my 20s or 30s, not unless I could take what I know now with me.
What do they say? Old heads and young shoulders?
Isn't that, I like that? That's true. I'm going to write that one down. But it's true. There's so much in our own communities where people need help. Organizations need help, like transition homes or second chances for men. Um, And we have a lot to offer in regards to helping younger individuals cope with stresses of life.
Or even helping each other,
Even helping each other.
because it's interesting because, the boomers were a very large cohort, and they very much shaped the world in
Yeah.
North America, at least in their
Yeah.
image. Like
Yeah.
the society built schools for them, built universities for them, created jobs for them. Now they're creating nursing homes for them. But, we're at the tail end. I think I'm technically a boomer, being born in 62, but my life experience has been more Gen X, really, than boomer.
Yeah.
But, and Gen X was a much smaller generation that came up behind them. And then we have the millennials, who are an even bigger generation.
Yes.
And it's I mean, and all of these things are generalizations. Like I said, especially those of us who are like in the intermediate, on the cusps. I mean, it's debatable.
Yeah.
These lines are very arbitrary, but it's not the same world as it was when we were, in our 20s, and in many ways that's a good thing. You were talking earlier about the microaggressions that older people tend to encounter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people encounter microaggressions. Anyone who's not, exactly in that box.
Yeah.
And people are becoming much more aware. I mean, even just the term microaggression, I'm sure that term didn't exist in 1969, or even in the 80s or 90s, when your dad was encountering that sort of thing. I'm sure they didn't call it a microaggression then, but it was.
Mm.
If people were not treating him with respect,
True enough.
that is, and if it's a small thing, if it's a small slight, if it's, oh, I forgot to invite you to this meeting.
Right.
Oh, we made this decision. We forgot to ask you,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That it can be absolutely soul sucking. But now we have better terminology for it, and people are more aware of it. So hopefully, well, that's not going to happen to you and me because we're not working for corporations. But
True enough. True enough. And both of you and I are very active within our lifestyle too. Like I know you are a regular at the gym.
yeah,
I have been involved in it for years. I'm going back to school again. Like we're both very active in our lifestyle. So, you build a family within the organization that you're working, and people care about people. But it's funny talking about age of my mom. She was a pretty funky lady, and when the internet came out and such, and she wanted to get a computer at 83. So my brother cobbled one together and we got it for her. And anyway, she and I were sitting at her place one night and she goes, "Lynn, I want to go on chat." I'm like, "You want to do what?" So I want to go on chat. So I said, "Well, okay." I said, all there is then was Yahoo. So I worked my way, there's all kinds of categories. And it came down to the seniors one. She goes, "That's the one I want. I'll go into the seniors." Well, they were more raunchy than some of the other rooms. Anyway, she eventually said to shut this thing down because she'd had enough of it. But we don't have to grow old in our spirit. That's for sure. That's choice.
raunchy seniors are the best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. She had her moments, no doubt. But it's nothing new. It's just another thing in the world that we live in. We've got to wade through situations that we face. And we've got to come out of it being confident, knowing who we are ourselves, where we stand our ground, and our own integrity, our own morals. And even though we fit into that age range, when we see somebody appear being verbally abused as such, we need to stand up and support one another. And it can
Absolutely.
be it can be done with dignity. So we don't have to allow ourselves to be in those situations.
No, we don't. And elder abuse is definitely something that has become more prominent in recent years.
Absolutely.
And people are just like with the whole thing about microaggressions, that people just kind of, oh, it's just a joke or whatever. And now people are taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with things like elder abuse and, people being taken advantage of, people being swindled. It's
Yes.
it's a big deal, and it's important that people pay attention to it. And yeah, look at that. We've been talking for 30 minutes, my girl. This is
Wow.
something.
Well, it's an interesting topic, no doubt.
Yeah.
But we with the way the world has changed, especially since we went into confinement with COVID, people's incomes changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them, of course, went online and have been, building these businesses and earning a living. And it's not just young people that are mature. They've built these amazing businesses and not just one stream of income.
Absolutely.
And the corporate world, CEOs within the corporate world are taking note of this, that there's these massive changes going on in the world with online opportunities. And now they're changing their strategies within their corporations to take advantage of that opportunity to be a part of that billion-dollar industry. So the world is changing. We just need to find our place in it where we're satisfied and happy.
Yeah, this is actually something I wanted to say, because I mentioned Jimmy Smith earlier, who built this empire starting at the age of 64.
Yeah.
And the thing about Jimmy is that Jimmy built it old school. He didn't build it online. I mean, he's still around, and
Yes.
he uses Zoom. He's amazing. Like, he comes in and he trains on, in groups and so on, and he knows how to use Zoom as well as anybody else. He's sharp as a tack. But the point is that when Jimmy was building his business, it was all in person. It was all what they call belly to belly. And there's a lot of people who don't want to do that. Introverts or whatever, they don't want to go around and talk to a lot of people.
Yep.
But nowadays, because we can build online, because we can build on social media, there's a lot of people who are finding success because they're building their business online or on social media. And I think it's really important that people realize this. If they have this image of, if you're doing this sort of business, then you're basically, they're thinking of the Avon lady ringing your doorbell and coming in and sitting in your living room and spreading out like this kit that she had to buy, and
home parties.
Or the companies, the nutrition companies, where you had to buy like a whole garage full of products and then try and sell them to people. That's all gone. I think it's really important that people realize that that model is done. I mean, with things opening up after the pandemic, there's some people who like to do that, and so they are doing that. But in general, it's really important that people realize that it's possible to build a business online. You still have to talk to people. I mean, it's still a people business.
Yeah.
But it's important to realize that if you're an introvert, if you can think of nothing worse than having to go to a networking meeting and chat with a bunch of strangers, you don't have to, and you can still build a business. So I just wanted to put that out there for.
Yep.
Because it's really important that people realize that the world has changed in many, many ways, and that's one of them.
Yeah. And back to the ageism, we are taking that same point. We live in a world that we don't have to put up with that anymore. We don't have to deal with that anymore. We've been infused with confidence through other means, whether it's like online. There's so much about, building integrity and manifestation and meditation. All of this is training people to become better people. So we don't need to put up with this any longer, no matter what age we are.
And we can take better care of ourselves too.
We can take better care of ourselves without a
As
doubt.
I say, they don't make the 60s like they used to.
No, not at all. Not at all. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my dear. I look like you did your research on ageism. I am so impressed with you. Awesome.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed reading about it and learning about it, and now I can talk about it with confidence because I'm a rah person all the time. I'm a cheerleader, so I hear that kind of stuff. I don't put up with it. I have no qualms.
Let me just twirl my baton here for you. Well, thank you to everyone who's been watching.
Yes.
We appreciate you, whether you're here live, whether you're watching the replay, whether you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere else.
Anywhere else.
On Facebook or on LinkedIn or on Instagram, anywhere. We greatly appreciate you. Drop us a message, drop us a comment if you have any questions or comments on what we talked about. And we would also love ideas of what you would like us to talk about.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yes.
That would be awesome. We will take under consideration most ideas. I'm not promising we'll do it. I'm just saying we will take it under consideration for sure. And we would greatly appreciate and love people giving us ideas.
Yeah. It's very relaxed. Very relaxed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, my dear.
Thank you, my friend.
On the broadcast. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Yeah.
Good night.